question was, what's the difference, or what does the Navaratna bracelet do that this one doesn't, or is it a different thing altogether?
That's a question I'm asked a lot, especially from people like yourself who've worn the meditation bangle first and been impressed by the feeling from it. And they are very different. The Navaratna, like Lewis said, is built using a customized design tailor-made to your horoscope with the maximum potential available to the cost you can pay for the gemstones. And there's a limitation with natural gemstones because you don't get, 5-carat blue sapphires in faultless condition, cornflower blue for under $5,000. You don't get, you can get a darker midnight blue for maybe $300 a carat instead of $1,000 a carat. So there's definite limitations on the ideal tone of colour and what's affordable. Mother Nature simply doesn't offer unheated, faultless gemstones inexpensively when they get past the 2-3 carat range. And what I've learned over the years is that we have this large electrical body. It's tied to our chakras, it interreacts with planetary stimuli, radiations. It's the seat of what's coming at us and how we react to everything around us, which is primarily what karma is. And we want to supplement it, we want to strengthen it, we want to give it added multivitamin electrical energy, as it were. And Navaratnas are wonderful for that, but they have limitations. And Mother Nature doesn't, when Sri Teshwar said faultless gems of not less than 2 carats are best of all, there's a caveat there, not less than 2 carats. In other words, they just started to work at 2 carats. Well, with experimentation over the years of nearly 3,000 people who've bought Navaratnas from me of gemstones over 2 carats, I've discovered that when I set a bangle with really large stones, say in the 8 to 12 carat range, and the person's going to be slightly more introspective than the average individual, they'll express far more satisfaction in the well-being and feeling they get from it than the people who wear Navaratnas that are just over 2 carats. And that really gets me thinking, because I'm in this unique situation on the whole planet where I've made, or Richard's made, but we've worked together, Richard's the jeweler, made 2.5, doesn't want to be filmed, makes 2,500 Navaratnas. No one's had, of gemstones over 2 carats, of the correct type of gemstone, unheated, etc. No one on the planet has made even 100 Navaratnas that I know of. In fact, I don't know anyone who's even made 100. So I've got this very unique observational history in my life of listening to people, getting their feedback, of them wearing Navaratnas. And obviously I take that as a very sacred trust, a very privileged opportunity to struggle and learn from in trying to refine the science and bring it into a more respected optimum. And the goal of that has been accomplished slightly with the Meditation Bangle. But the Meditation Bangle has some weaknesses to it. It doesn't have a strong red spectrum. You cannot grow laboratory red quartz, the chromium oxide, which would be the dopant, the chromatic mineral in the quartz, doesn't gel with the silica oxygen matrix. And so, but that's not such an important color anyway in my rationale, and you can counterbalance it a little bit with the red coral. The thing is, people love the Navaratna. The rishis recommended them. Swami Sri Teshwar wore one, Paramahansa Yogananda wore one. A lot of yogis who want to lighten their load will purchase multi-gem bangles, whether they can afford all 9 of the gems or even 3 or 4 of their weaker planetary influences in their horoscope. They'll maybe add an extra planetary strength gem every year or so, work towards it. It's kind of like a game, it's fun. But the problem is, my hands are tied because Mother Nature doesn't provide huge faultless gemstones at affordable prices.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very convinced that even though people will love their 5-carat yellow sapphire or their 6-carat emerald or their 8-carat hessonite garnet, the body that those individuals have is a resistor. It's a block.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like we're just got an electrical current going from one wire to another.
Mm-hmm.
We have this electrical field within our physical body.
Mm-hmm.
When its leaves were dead, and our karma is tied to our electrical body, not our physical body.
Mm-hmm.
You know, our nervous system, our pain, everything, our mind, is all our electrical body. And so you are trying to give the electrical body a more refined form of energy and stimulation in a balanced manner to make your consciousness, to make your well-being improved through the use of gemstones. And they have to have a critical mass. They have to have a certain size. Now, a 4-carat blue sapphire might be as powerful as a 25-carat blue quartz that's laboratory grown, because a blue sapphire is 9 on the hardness scale, the Mohs scale,
Mm-hmm.
and is more condensed than a quartz, which has a hardness of 7.
Mm-hmm.
But the blue quartz is so much more affordable if you can amp up the largeness of the blue quartz. You can actually overtake the influence of the blue sapphire. Now, for those my customers that wear a Navaratna and a meditation bangle, there's 2 benefits to that. One is they wear the Navaratna on one arm,
Mm-hmm.
and the Navaratna on the other arm.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation bangle on the other arm, or the Shakti bangle.
Mm-hmm.
And you have in your electrical field a left and a right. You know, right-handed people are more pushing out with their right side, and they do everything with their right. Their left side is a little bit weaker, and their consciousness doesn't direct as much energy then.
Yep.
And so it's good to wear the bangle on their left side for most people, unless they're right-handed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's a dogmatic law that some people like to espouse about, okay, you always wear it on your left arm or right arm. That's really about what the person bioenergetically feels
Right.
is best.
Uh-huh.
And could you home in on the Navaratna on Rocky's arm, honey? Great. And you'll see there, it's warm there. Now that is the position where the gems are seated well into the skin, closest to your chakras, closest to your solar plexus, closest to your brain, which is where most of the electrical body and your energy is in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's warm there because they can seep really well into the skin and get through your physical body, which is the resistor again, and be picked up by your electrical body.
Mm-hmm.
And as we discussed earlier, and this partly answers your question about the difference between a Navaratna and a meditation bangle, I study feedback.
Mm-hmm.
I study testimonial response. I talk to my clients. I have this amazing privilege of meeting all these amazing people who are yogis and on different steps of the spiritual path, from different paths, for the last 25 years. And it's really fascinating to gauge their reaction to wearing Ayurvedic astrological jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely try to compartmentalize and analyze and draw conclusions from what they tell me, so that I can tailor the science of Ayurvedic astrological jewelry guided by their feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Because, unfortunately, a lot of astrological jewelers in the world tend to think that they're the cat's pajamas, they're the bee's knees, they know what they're doing, they don't have to listen to their customers, they've got this shastra that says this or this book that says that, and they're sensitive and they meditate, big whoopee deal, And I kind of rebel very much, as you can tell, against that type of persona, because you've got before you this amazing battlefield of feedback,
Mm-hmm.
giving you information,
Mm-hmm.
and you're praying for it, and you've got all these individuals acting as conduits,
Mm-hmm.
saying this happened and I felt this, and all those individuals haven't talked to each other.
Right.
So you're getting it's a real double-blind study in that sense. You're not
Right.
like telling 10 people to think something and they're coming to you and saying, oh, I think this, or
Mm-hmm.
giving them options. They're just saying, this is what I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was going to candidly be asked which is better, you've only got a choice of one or the other, then I would say get the Meditation Bangle or the Shakti Bangle, which is this one in case you're wondering at this stage. And if I was going to be asked what's the optimum, then I'd say get both, one on each arm. Some people will only want 3 gems on their arm, 3 planets covered, or 2 or 3. Then sure, get the traditional methodology for the weakest planets in your horoscope. You always strengthen the weakest link. You're as strong as your weakest link, if you're a chain, as it were. Go ahead.
And that would have an effect. So if you got a Navaratna bangle, but you only had 3 planets out of 9, that would begin to have an effect on those 3 planets.
Well, it would definitely have an effect. The Shakti Bangle, which we often call the Meditation Bangle, does not allow for the influence of Ketu, the Chrysoberyl cat's eye. Does not allow for the influence of the ruby. We can add a ruby to it. We can add a chrysoberyl to it. Chrysoberyl now has become incredibly expensive, and of course that's overcome because a lot of people are selling aspartite cat's eyes that are not chrysoberyl cat's eyes, and they're not gemologists, and they look the same, and etc., etc. But if you know where to buy cat's eyes in the world, and you go there, you find out how expensive they've become the last few years.